Hello, YouTube audience. See what I can do here. Fade out the music. That way you guys don't have that going in the background. Easy peasy. I'll let a couple of you trickle in here. I know this one's kind of short notice today, and it's actually a little bit of short notice for me as well. Um, Start today's show with a story. This one's not going to go. I think that my recording software has chunked out again, which is good to find out before we actually start the show. Um, Yesterday, actually, you guys can probably still hear it in my voice. I'm still dealing with the after effects of this little kid cold. They come, they go, easy come, easy go on kid colds. Well, my little guy, he seemed to have gotten over his, by all accounts. Looked like he had gotten over his. He had a little snuffly over the weekend. Yesterday, went down for his midday nap and woke up just irate, mad, hopping mad, as a 2-year-old can be. We couldn't really figure out what was going on. And finally, he took my hand. Theodore, what hurts? What hurts, buddy? And he took my hand and he put it over his ear, which was so sad. Ear hurts, he says. Oh, good. So now I'm thinking ear infection for sure. So I get him a little Motrin, and, over the next 30 to 45 minutes, that does help. Pardon me. There will be some sniffles in today's show. And, he starts playing around and everything seems like it's getting back to normal. And then all of a sudden, and this is going to gross you guys out. If you guys don't like gross stories, just tune out for like the next 90 seconds. We see what looks like a little bit of gunk in his eye. Kids get gunk in their eyes. Kids, we think, all right, maybe this is like a pink eye thing, because like pink eye, their eye gets red, they get a little crusty. But we look closer, the eye is not red. And the gunk doesn't look like eye gunk. It's not like, a little hard ball of it gets out of your eye and it gets hard almost immediately because it's generally like dried up tears. This straight up looks like a booger. We're like, oh, that's weird. Like, what would a bigger booger be doing in this child's eyeball? So we take a warm washcloth, squeeze, mush that sucker out. And then, 30, 45 minutes later, there's another one. Didn't really know what it was. Happened a couple times throughout the rest of the evening. Kind of gross, but it is what it is. And we went to bed last night kind of knowing that today was going to be weird. We didn't know if it was going to be eye or ear or whatever was going on for the poor little dude. His eye was basically glued shut when he woke up this morning. And we had to like warm compress it a bunch of times. He wasn't thrilled about that. But eventually we sort of pulled the eye open and it actually looked okay inside in a weird twist. We're like, okay, whatever these like boogers are, we thought maybe blocked duct, something like that. Take him to the doctor. Anyway, this is why everything's starting so late today. Take him to the doctor. Does have an ear infection. And the boogers, or what we thought was a booger, is actually internal ear fluid coming through an eyeball. Who wants to be a parent? That's called the hard sell. Oh my God. What a truly disgusting way to live my adult life. I chose this. I want you guys to remember, I chose this. Anyway, that's how we'll start this thing. Take a 20-second break here, and then we'll actually do the recording for folks over on the podcast side. There are a lot of you that came in and rolled in yesterday. I don't know if we're going to have quite that same turnout today. Tuesdays tend to be a little bit quieter. I think there's a soccer match going on right now, so we're running up against that thing. So yeah, 20-second break. I'm going to take myself off the screen. Don't worry. Everything's fine. I'll be back in just a second. We'll start the recording for the official podcast after this. And remember, anybody that's watching live or just started, we'll have a quick Q&A at the end of this deal. We'll try to do that kind of lightning round question and answer at the end of all of our live shows. So 20-second break. We'll be right back. everybody. Happy official name change day. That's how we're starting today's show because the NBA, for reasons I don't fully know, has decided that today they needed to rename all of their trophies. I don't know. I shrug my shoulders in confusion. The NBA has decided today's the day they needed to rename all of the trophies. We'll talk about that a little bit on today's show, for whatever that's worth. Shams putting out the list of 6 new trophy names. I think they're all individual awards. I don't think they changed the coaching. I think that was one that stayed the same, but MVP, defensive player, rookie, sixth man, improved, and then they added an award called the Clutch Player of the Year, which is like, I don't know. Is there going to be a player who has the most game winners? Best player during the final 5 minutes of fourth quarter and overtime? We'll find out, I guess. Happy Tuesday, by the way. If you're not going to call it name change day, you probably call it Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I'm realizing that as I was trying to sort of put together, and this is another one where we're doing a live recording as we're doing this show. I'm realizing that the YouTube background is wrong. So sorry, everybody on that side. Those of you listening on the recorded end, you don't care. I don't know that you care, even if we're on the YouTube side. But today's show, we're going to have an SGA segment on today's show. We're going to talk about these new awards, and we're going to recap Monday's results. This is Fantasy NBA Today, for those that didn't know. Most of you do. I am Dan Vespris. For those of you that didn't know, most of you do. And yesterday's card was, I don't know, a little bit interesting. There were a couple things that I want to point out, but I think most of today is going to be talking a little bit about kind of how NBA math works, almost more than anything else. I want to get into a little bit of a math discussion. Hey, they don't call me pedantic for nothing. We do math chats on this show, whether you like it or not. You can follow me on Twitter at Dan Vespris, DanBesbris. I hope that you do. Those of you listening on the recorded side, please come on, check out some of these live YouTube shows. Subscribe to our YouTube page. If you're watching right now, hit the like button on the video. That actually does kind of mean a lot to us. And you're like, oh, whatever. What does it even mean? It actually means a lot because it helps spread the show around. It gets a little more viral every time somebody clicks a like button. So head on over there. It's youtube.com/sportsethos. Super easy to find. And for those that are already doing it, sweet. Let's go through the boxes quickly here because I want to make sure we afford ourselves time to get into some of the other stuff. Miami beat Indiana in what might be the ugliest game of the season. It certainly is the ugliest game of the season so far. It might end up being the ugliest game of the season en total. 87-82, the final score, 169 points scored between the two teams. Miami, a blistering 38.5% from the field. Indiana, a frigid 35.5% from the field. The pace was slow. The turnovers were medium. The free throws were medium. And the shooting was god-awful. And for Miami, they actually kind of needed this one, which is a weird thing to say for a Miami team that's just sort of quietly been plugging along for the last however many years Jimmy Butler's been in town. But they've been kind of bad this year. The Heat are 13-15. They're 4-9 on the road. So they got a road win here. And they did it in just a gross basketball game. But we did have one main question coming into this on the Miami side, and it was, can Caleb Martin sustain fantasy value when the Heat are fully healthy? And the answer after seeing this ball game was kinda. Because the Heat were bad. The Pacers were worse. Adebayo at 22 and 17. He stayed above the fray. Jimmy Butler, 27 and 5 with a couple of steals. He generally stayed above the fray, but for a couple missed free throws. And then Kyle Lowry had a bad shooting game. Tyler Hero didn't do that much, but actually was one of the better positive impact players on the team. Just he was kind of in units that were winning their time on the floor. And then Caleb Martin, 9 points, 6 boards, a steal, a three-pointer, and an assist. And that line sort of makes you stop and think through what it means. Because on the season, and this includes a number of games where Hero's been out, Hero and Butler have been out, just Butler, Strus, and Butler, or Strus and Hero. And Caleb was averaging 11, 5, and 2 with about a steal and 1.5 3-pointers. And that puts him just outside the top 100. And I feel like that's kind of what we got in this ball game. 8 shots yesterday instead of 9 averaging on the year. And yes, he got off to kind of a disengaged start. But at the same time, he also led the team in minutes played yesterday. And he's actually kind of falling into this weird little Quentin Grimes group of guys that are playing almost 40 minutes a ball game and not really doing anything with it. Sort of a strange twist in all of that. I'm realizing that I don't really need the YouTube side. I was leaving up a picture of the name change here. I'm just going to say watch list. I don't think that there's enough in his fantasy game to get him on that Roto Games Cap side. Head to head, he's been one of the healthier guys on the team for the most part this year. So that's worth something. He's been out there for 27 ball games, and that's pretty much all of them. He's missed one, I think. That part is useful. That part, makes sense because you need to roll up numbers over the course of a given week. If he has a 4-game week, you can feel pretty confident he's going to play in all 4 of them. That's often better than some much better player who, has 3 games, but you figure they might only get into 2. But Roto Games Cap side, he just hasn't been good enough on a game-to-game basis to use up a cap on him. On the Indiana side, Aaron Nesmith got the start in this one. He left with a shoulder injury after about 30 minutes. He also had 5 defensive stats, which doesn't at all line up with what he's done throughout his NBA career. Now, I know what you're going to say, Dan. He's never really had minutes before. So how do we know? This is why, and you can't get the entire picture from this, but one thing that I like to do in a situation like this one on the handicapping side is to go to basically the Nesmith game log for his entire NBA career and find other games where he's played 30 minutes or more. Say, okay, well, what happens if he actually does get full complement of starters minutes? By the way, it's happened about 4 times with Indiana this year. This game, 12 and 6, 2 steals, 3 blocks, and 2 3-pointers. That's way above the cut line. That's a really good game. And not, if his shoulder injury keeps him out, then some of this analysis ends up being sort of good for nothing. But he did it less than a week ago. He played 33 minutes in Minnesota and had 9 points, 3 boards, and a steal, and a 3-pointer. Not close to fantasy value. He played 31 minutes against Orlando in a blowout win. 9 points, 8 boards, 2 assists, a steal, a couple of 3 balls, and 4 turnovers. Even that is like borderline top 100. And then I'm going to round up a little bit. He played 29 minutes and 45 seconds in Washington back in late October. He had 15, 7, and 3 with a steal and a couple of 3-pointers. And even that is, again, more like kind of 90 range. So the good ones for him in starters minutes are like 90 range. And the bad ones are still, 150. So that's not to say that he can't do anything fantasy-wise. But it is, I think, relevant when you're like, all right, will he? What does it probably average out to? And he probably averages out to something in that like 115 to 125 range, if that, maybe lower. I've never really seen him play consistent starters minutes. We don't know how that is going to impact his body. So I don't think you need to race out and pick up Nesmith. I just don't think the ceiling is all that high for him. He doesn't hit a ton of 3-pointers. He doesn't typically get a ton of defensive stats. He got 3 blocks in this one. He might not get another block for 4 weeks. More than anything, I think that Nesmith moving into the starting lineup continues to be kind of the death blow to these Indiana young big men. And remember, I like Jalen Smith coming into the year, but I also 4 weeks ago saw the writing on the wall and said, we can get out of this thing. We can still escape here with our dignity. We did. Isaiah Jackson, DNP. It's just not happening for these guys. By the way, Tyrese Halliburton had a rare bad game. That hasn't happened pretty much at all this year. It dropped him from number 7, I think, down to number 10. Might have been 8 to 10. Doesn't matter. Andrew Nembhard. That's what I wanted to talk about on the Indiana side. 18-5-2 with a steal, block, and 3 3-pointers. We mentioned how he was like hovering right in between hold and drop. And I said, see if you can squeeze just a little bit more hold onto it, because we've seen that he does have a pretty well-rounded fantasy game, and he flexed it a little bit yesterday. Now, it took a very bad Tyrese Halliburton game to free up a little bit more Nembhard, but, it was worth it, because Nembhard was solid in this ball game. So that should, I think, buy him a little bit more time on your roster and roll with it. Brooklyn beat Washington 112-100. KD and Kyrie were both excellent. Nick Claxton was solid, if unspectacular. Ben Simmons, 10-8-5, and meh. Remember like 3 weeks ago when Simmons was going crazy and everybody was like, Dan, he's top 30 the rest of the year. And I said, well, if you can sell him for that, then he's top 30 the rest of the year. Yeah, not quite. TJ Warren, 19 minutes. He's still he's close. He's closer than I thought he would be, but we kind of need him to get to about 23, 24 minutes. If he hits that marker, I think in any one ball game, I might then take the plunge. But we haven't seen him get there yet. And there was also no Royce O'Neal. I don't think that was big on the TJ Warren side, but it did allow Joe Harris to keep starting the ball game. For Washington, Kristaps Porzingis left part way with back tightness. Luckily, he had put up decent numbers prior to that, so it didn't completely obliterate his ball game. Let's just hope it's not a big deal. Jordan Goodwin was an easy stream with no Monte Morris and no Bradley Beal. Denny Avdia, quiet. He was quieter than we had hoped. Figured it'd be an easier stream with no Beal and no Morris, but Avdia has been good every time Beal's been out. I wouldn't adjust our expectations for him based on one slightly quieter ball game. Will Barton got hot. There was no way to see that coming. He had a big game. You're not picking him up, and you can kind of just rumble along from there. And then Kyle Kuzma had this sort of points league special of 20 points, 7 boards, 3 assists, a block, and 4 3-pointers on category league tanking percentages and turnover numbers. But on the points side, you probably don't care so much. Memphis saw that Atlanta didn't have any of their guys, and so they figured they could pull the plug on a few of their dudes that were kind of dinged up. So no Steven Adams. That meant Brandon Clark got a spot start, and he's always fun in those spots. No John Morant. So Tyus Jones got the spot start, and he is almost definitely the best backup point guard in the NBA. That's an easy stream call to make. Also, when no Ja is around, that means usually a little bit more stuff for John Conchar, who elevates slightly above what we've called the chill stream around the top 100 and instead puts up something that's more like in the 75 to 80 range. JJJ, 8 blocks in this ball game. He's been ridiculous with shot blocking. He's at almost 4 per game right now. 3.7, I think, is what I'm seeing. He's also shooting 51%. And as much as I love JJJ, remember last year he was sort of like our secret attack guy. He's going to fall off from this mark. He's not going to block 4 shots a game. His block rate right now is like the best in 40 years that the NBA's seen. He's not going to shoot 51% with 2 3-pointers a night. There's a lot of stuff with him that's going to come back to earth. If you can get a second rounder or better, you do it. Anything less than that, you probably just hang on and enjoy the JJJ mega block adventure. With Atlanta, the problem with doing anything there, and frankly, the problem with doing anything with the notes on the Memphis side, is that in this ball game, almost all of the guys that got ruled out were game time decisions that tipped the wrong way. Trae Young tipped the wrong way. Clint Capella tipped the wrong way. Ja and Steven Adams tipped the wrong way. These guys, Bogdan Bogdanovic was a rest day on the Atlanta side. These guys could all very well, 5 for 5, could be back in their team's next ball games, at which point then you end up blowing a roster move on a Tuesday when I don't think Memphis plays again. Don't they play again in a couple of days? I don't remember when Atlanta. I think Atlanta goes tomorrow, and I think Memphis might be off for 2 days between games. Frankly, it doesn't matter. Unless we get some kind of word that these guys are going to be out ahead of time, you kind of can't do anything with it, which is a shame because Onyeka Okongwu, he's a good fill-in for Capella. AJ Griffin, meh. He's a little more meh. DeAndre Hunter is a pretty good fill-in when everybody is out on the Atlanta side. Aaron Holiday had a good ball game, but again, Trae Young, how many times has he missed ball games, multiple games in a row? The number is pretty damn low. And Atlanta can't screw around. They're in a weird space right now. Trey's there's some off-court drama there that they're being a little bit cryptic about. Still okay. They're 14-14, and they're in the top play-in seed right now. But Atlanta's got to get things kind of straightened out in a hurry here before it starts to consume things a little bit. Dallas beat OKC, no surprise, because Luka was back. Boy, were they bad without him. That's weird, too, because you look at the numbers here, Luka was actually on +1. He wasn't in the lineup that dominated this game. It was the three-point barrage. The Mavs hit 22 threes in this game. Tim Hardaway Jr. with a nice little bounce back. He hit 6 of them. I mean, he shot 38% from the field, but when you take 16 shots and the vast majority of them are three-pointers, you're probably not going to have a great field goal percent. Maxi Kleber hit 2, and he was good in this one. 2 3, 7 boards, a steal, and 2 blocks. Schedule streamer level guy lately, Kleber. They like the way he's playing more than they like what Christian Wood is doing. Wood is more the offensive kind of attack animal coming off the bench, but if they don't need that, then they're not going to play him. And Wood was a -11 in a game they won by 7. It's terrible. I know plus minus doesn't tell the whole story, but like for those, I've seen on Twitter, there's this like really intense clamoring for all Christian Wood. And guess what, guys? There are many a night where he's not their best center. Is he their best offensive center? Yeah. But does he fit the best with what they're doing night to night? Not every time. Sometimes they need a center who's going to be a low usage, good rebounding, defensive floor stretching, reliable guy. And that was Kleber yesterday. You're not really changing the outlook on a lot of this stuff. It is nice, however, to see Tim Hardaway Jr. bounce back after a couple of very quiet games. And right now, he looks like kind of a rest of season pickup steal, which is crazy to think because he was completely non-existent the first 5 weeks of this year. And the last 2.5 weeks, he's been an absolute monster. Minus, one game in there where he was really bad, another game where he was pretty bad. But like going back to November 29th, I believe that was when they put him in the starting lineup. Tim Hardaway Jr., just in 3-pointers, 5, 6, 8, 5, 6, 2, 2, and 6. See how fast I can do the math on that. 11, 19, 24, 30, 34, 40. That's 43 pointers in 8 ball games. That's an easy math to do, thank goodness. 5 3-pointers a game over that stretch. And mind you, he's actually been bad at the foul line during that run. He had a game where he went like 0 for 2 or 0 for 4. I think he had another one where he went 0 for 1 or 0 for 2. I realize, again, the field goal percent is slightly inflated over that run, but the free throw percent is actually slightly deflated. We might be looking at a top 70 pickup. That's crazy. Maybe, even if he falls back to like 80, 85, it still ends up as a really nice grab. The Oklahoma City roulette wheel, I mentioned it on yesterday's show in our weekend recap. I'm just done with it. I'm done with it. I don't want anything to do with all of this crap. Alexei Pokusevsky only back down to 22 minutes. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl played 14 and then left with an ankle tweak. Isaiah Joe got 21. Jalen Williams played 38 minutes in this game. And frankly, if everybody else is out, then you probably do add Jalen Williams. I'm not racing to do it, though, because as everybody gets healthy and then we've seen it too many damn times. It's 2+ years of this where for a week, Poku gets big numbers, and then a week it's Robinson-Earl, and then a week it's Jalen Williams, and then a week it's frickin' Darius Baisley. And then it's whoever the hell that dude is that's out on San Antonio now. The whole thing is just obnoxious. I don't know why I can't think of a name. Doesn't matter. Isaiah Roby is the player I'm thinking about. I'm really trying hard to mute my microphone when I have to sniffle. I hope you guys are appreciative of that. I really hope so. I'm working my hardest here. So the short version on that Oklahoma City thing is that I'm just leaving it alone. I know that we could make a case game to game for different pickups and drops, but that's just too much. So screw it. Spurs accidentally won a ball game yesterday, which they were not trying to do in the fourth quarter. They were like 90% of the way to pissing it away, and then our buddy Keldon Johnson fly swatted a last-second layup try that would have given the Cavaliers the lead and probably the win. Karis LeVert was decent again, but you know what? I don't care. I do like that they're bringing him off the bench, though. He makes a lot more sense running the second unit because then they don't have to sort of artificially move the playing time around for Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. They can just play those guys when they want to. The staggering there is less necessary. But in this one, for whatever reason, the starting unit for Cleveland was just like they got beat up a little bit. Donovan Mitchell was still fine, but you know, he's slowly showing signs. He's down to number 11 now. I'm nitpicking a little bit. And then Darius Garland just, he hasn't been particularly good on the year. He's number 63. It's pretty remarkable, actually, how much Donovan Mitchell has just taken this team away. They really aren't sharing it. It's Donovan's club. Nice to see Jared Allen with another good ball game, though. He's been kind of quietly climbing the ranks, and he's up to number 48 on a per-game basis now, mostly because the blocks are starting to show up. That was the thing that was lagging way behind the other stuff. No adjustments to the fantasy numbers there. Same deal on San Antonio. I've had some folks ask if I'm worried about Devin Vassell coming off the bench. Spurs are just trying to get creative with how to make sure they accidentally, purposefully lose ball games. They're 9-18 right now. They're going to have to rattle off a few more losses because they've actually won a few games in a row. Oopsies. So we'll see. We'll see some tanking coming up here. It'll probably be kind of obvious. Keldon went back to missing a bunch of shots. At least his free throw stroke wasn't that terrible yesterday. This is really extremely annoying. His shooting has been untenable. Frankly, you can't start him in Roto while he's shooting like this, but you kind of have to because if it just sort of comes around, you want to be there for it because dude took 25 shots. He's taking 25 shots. You have to be real bad from the field to not be a good fantasy value, and unfortunately, that's kind of where he's been here lately. Zach Collins went into the fourth quarter with 2 fouls. He ended up fouling out of this game. How, Zachary? Charles Bassey, 20 minutes for him is generally enough, but if Collins doesn't foul out, he probably gets more like 30 instead of 28. It didn't adjust the numbers that much. And in a situation like that, you pretty much take the guy playing 30 instead of the guy playing 18 minutes. So for Collins, he's going to be a low-end fill-in here for Jakob Poeltl, but we still don't have a return time on. No, you're not adding Josh Richardson. And so from that, you just move on to the next one. Portland blew out Minnesota. The good news in this ball game is that Kyle Anderson still got the start and still played basically the same number of minutes as all the other starters. So he, to me, has solidified himself as a very safe cat fill-in. And on the other side, it's a long stream. It's a great opportunity play for slow-mo. For Portland, Jeremy Grant had a more efficient ball game, but we've seen the usage taper off. He only got 12 shots in this one. Anthony Simons only got 13 shots in this one. And then Dame just went buck wild. 38 points, 11 3-pointers. Dame is back, man. And he's putting a dent into these other dudes. Shout out to Lillard for jumping from ranked 40th to 17th in the span of a week. That Simons has already fallen off about 10 spots since Dame came back. Where's Jeremy Grant at? I don't think he's fallen quite as far because his field goal percent has actually gone up. Yeah, he's still hovering right around 50 thanks to the bump in field goal percent. But you're going to see this stuff taper, and you want to lock in the value. That's all. Just lock in the value. You don't have to abandon ship. That's not what selling is. You're locking in value. It's much simpler that way. Think of it that direction. And then, kind of burying the lead a little bit here, Kawhi Leonard. Great game for Kawhi. His minutes were a little bit lower because it was a blowout win. He didn't have to finish the ball game. I think Clippers got all the starters out with about 2.5 minutes to go. So it would have been about 30, 31 minutes for Kawhi. But the real key was that he just looked good. He looked engaged. He looked sort of like angry mode. And he was nearly a team best plus 23 in a game they won by 20. So, good to see again that he's doing most of the damage there. 25, 9, and 6, a steal, 2 3-pointers, 10 for 12 shooting. I don't know how he went 3 for 6 at the foul line in a game where everything else was going in, but this is his best game of the year. His best game since the regular season in 2000 and late 2021. No, that's not even right, is it? Yeah, late 2021. prior to the injury. And so he continues to kind of get there. And now it's funny to watch social media because like 3 weeks ago, people were trying to sell Kawhi for peanuts. I literally had analysts saying to give Kawhi away for nothing. Like for guys that were ranked in the 140 range. I get it, but our job as analysts has to be to help people maintain their composure in situations like that. Because I'm with you, man. I have some Kawhi Leonards on my team because to me, going in the 30s felt really late for a guy that can be a first round per game guy. And I play a lot of games cap roto, so that makes that decision a little bit less crazy. And then with all this other stuff going on, the soreness, that was annoying. The ankle tweak, that was annoying. Yeah, I mean, it sucked. Dude has played for like a week and a half this year out of 8 weeks of basketball. That sucks. You know I hate drafting injured guys. I hate it. Now, we didn't know Kawhi was going to play a game and a half and then sit for 3 weeks coming off of injury. It's a little bit of a different discussion to have, but like he turned out to basically be a guy that was injured to start the year. That's hard. I get it. Believe me, I get it. I'm there with you on that one. But you cannot panic. You cannot make a panic move. Now, I also saw folks that were trading him for like an injured Damian Lillard, I think was one that came across the board. Guys like in the 40 range, guys like a Vooch or a Jared Allen or, even like a Brandon Ingram or something like that. These are a little bit less insane. Like I kind of understand those because at least you're getting a player that's going to move the metaphorical boulder forward. But we know enough. Like, okay, so you never should have drafted Kawhi in the head-to-head side. And we said that during draft season. So I'm going to talk about Kawhi Leonard as if this is a roto-only discussion right now. Games cap format, you should be able to just squat on him. And then you're like, okay, when he comes back, like if I only get 40 games of a second round per game guy, okay, that, sucks, not what I wanted. But 40 games from a second rounder is, well, I mean, he was drafted generally in the third this year, but let's say per game he gets up near that second round marker. That's way better than 60 games from a guy who's a 11th rounder or whatever I was seeing on social media. I mean, this is some like panic mode advice. Our job as analysts is to stop you from panicking. This isn't DFS. We don't have to freak out each and every day. Okay? We have this opportunity because the season, especially on a roto side, because the roto season is like 22 weeks long and your head-to-head season is probably like 18 weeks long, you can just do nothing for a couple of days. That's okay. All right, enough ranting and raving on the Kawhi Leonard thing. Because I had another, actually a positive rant I want to save up. Well, regardless, for the Clippers, Kawhi being good now, again, means that a lot of guys are completely irrelevant. Many of them are guys we've talked about for a long time, like John Wall never should have been on a roster. Reggie Jackson never should have been on a roster. Marcus Morris got off to a great start this year, but he can safely be dropped. Terrence Mann, drop him. Luke Kennard, if you had him, drop him. Nick Batum has been like weirdly good the last couple of weeks, but it's just a matter of time before old age catches up with him. We've seen that for about 3 years in a row. For Batum, there's going to be an injury coming. He is, I will admit, he is close. Batum is close to a roto startable point here. So put Batum on your watch list. And then Ivica Zubac is another story altogether because, it wasn't clear what Kawhi coming back and playing full minutes would do to Zoo, but it does seem like it allows the Clippers to change the way they're defending other teams. Now, Boston didn't have an interior presence. Blake Griffin was the starting center for the Celtics, and he had no shot. So they didn't need a lot of Zubac. He was also in foul trouble, so take that into consideration as well. But he is trending down. Remember, Zoo was like a top 40 guy the first 2 weeks of the season. It hasn't quite been that way lately. Last month, he's in the 140 range. largely because the blocks have come back down where they've always been, which is like 1 instead of, what are you, like 2.5 for 3 weeks there? Zubats is a late round big man. That's what he is, and that's what he is again. I'm pausing the recorded version of the show to address just the Twitter folks. It looks like most of you are kind of watching passively today, and that's totally fine. But if you are watching passively, I'm going to ask you to do one active thing, and that is like and subscribe. Because every time I do one of these shows, I like to see a few more folks hit the like and subscribe deal. Want to keep growing our YouTube presence. We're going to keep doing more shows as long as more people continue to watch them and interact and like and subscribe. And again, every time one of you hits that like button, it's actually extremely helpful for us, like big time helpful, because it pops up on more little sidebars on YouTube. And that's how new people find our YouTube page and then find Sports Ethos. And that's how another way that we can continue to grow. So please do like and subscribe. And if you'd like to, again, a reminder, now that there are, more than just one handful of you watching this, me just doing a recorded pod with a live taping. Anybody watching the YouTube video, you can put a question in the YouTube chat room and I will answer it at the end of the show. After I sign off for the recorded folks, we're doing a live speed round Q&A, and I'm going to try to do it at the end of every single one of these. So navigate over to the actual YouTube URL. That'll bring up the chat room. I actually don't even know where the hell it is on mobile. I do everything on a computer. I'm an old man. So go ahead and do that. And now we'll dive back into the task at hand here. Mid-podcast, that means I got to remind you guys of a couple of things. Number one, Manscaped.com, promo code ETHOS20. Get 20% off your order and free shipping on everything at Manscaped.com. And you should check it out because, it's freaking the holiday season. It's a perfect gift for males in your life that want to either deal with their fingernails. We talked about the shears. That's only a $20 deal. You can get it for $16 with our promo code ETHOS20 for 20% off and free shipping. You can get the Lawnmower 3.0. You can get the straight razor. You can get the 3-blade razor. There's all this really good stuff over there at manscaped.com. Please do take a moment to check that out. And again, use promo code at Ethos20. Again, a reminder, if you're listening to the recorded version, check out our YouTube page at youtube.com/sportsethos and follow me on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DANBESBRIS. We are going to continue doing loads of crap. Sometimes it's good crap over on social media. I know Twitter can be a bottomless pit of despair, but if you just follow the specific right folks, I promise you can make this thing work. And use TweetDeck, tweetdeck.com. It pulls all the riffraff out, and you just see your timeline, and you can even filter your timeline based on things that you like. All right. So I have two things I wanted to talk about here at the end of the show. One of them is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's just been absolutely incredible so far this year. But I felt like it was important to highlight one part of his game that's been extra incredible. He's the number 2 player on a per-game basis. I believe he's the number 3 player on a totals basis. And a lot of what he's done has been because he has been epically amazing at the free throw line this year. 93.3% on over 10 field goal attempts per ball game. That's second most in the NBA to Joel Embiid. And the percentage, I believe, among qualifying fantasy players is best. He's tied with Seth Curry at that mark, but his volume is obviously way higher. Trey Murphy is at 93.6, but he's only taking 2 free throws per game. So effectively right now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has what's basically the highest free throw percent on the second highest number of foul shots per ball game. The reason that this is interesting is because, yes, his overall value has been pretty significantly impacted by that category, but we really haven't had a player who's turned free throw percent into a specialist level. Because sometimes we'll talk about guys who have a lot of blocked shots. Brook Lopez at 2.9, Miles Turner at 2.4, JJJ at a ridiculous 3.6. Miles Turner at 2.4 blocks per game is actually less impactful in that category than Shai in free throws. Remember how we talked in years past? And a lot of people are like, well, what does Miles do besides block shots? You could almost apply, and this is not to knock Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in any way, because obviously he is doing other things at a better than average level. But like if Shai was at Miles Turner's level in the other 8 categories, he would basically be ranked where Miles is ranked, which is mid-second round. Shai's been able to push himself to the top of the first round because his steals at 1.8 are also elite, and his scoring at 31 is also elite. But it's interesting to note that a lot, and this is, by the way, more than anything, what I'm saying right now is actually a shot at folks who say, well, Miles Turner doesn't do anything besides block shots, which is, semi-true some of the time. But also, if you're that good at something, it has a massive level of fantasy appeal, which is basically what Shai has done with free throws this season, where, look, like you can do the math on this. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been so good at foul shooting that you can take a team with Zion and Rudy Gobert, which would obviously be dead last in your league in foul shooting, and put Shai on that club and move it from dead last until right smack in the middle. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can wipe out Rudy Gobert and Zion together with his foul shooting this year. So the point of this is, number one, I just wanted to compliment Shai for what an unbelievable year he's having and how successful he's been at getting to the free throw line. But also to point out that, yes, like the guys at the top get there because sometimes they're just so good in a category that it elevates them to a level of second or first rounder. There are no players in the NBA who are, at least folks that are actually like playing daily right now. DeLon Wright is the only example that I could find, but he's been hurt for most of the year. There are no players in the NBA that are as good in one statistical category as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is in free throws that aren't inside the top 20. Every single player that has had that type of impact in any single category is inside the top 20. And the closest player to having that kind of impact that isn't is DeAnthony Melton, who at 2.2 steals is number 44. Everybody else that's been that successful in any department, so OG Anunoby in steals, Miles Turner, Brook Lopez in blocks, James Harden, Tyrese Halliburton in assists, JJJ also in blocks, Steph in three-pointers, AD, you could probably put him there in blocks. All of those guys inside the top 20, and actually all of them inside the top 16. Well, OG inside the top 19. That's how important it is to be hyper elite. We kind of need a new word for it. To be elite in something is great, but to be hyper elite, which is what Shai is doing in that category, that basically makes you a second rounder with very little else going on. You got to play the ball game. Can't be zeros in the other departments, but just like be average in most of the other stuff, which is kind of like what Miles and Brook Lopez are, and they're second rounders. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, which again, this is just crap for the end of a show, this is fluff, is the new names. Let me give you the 6 names, and I'll take my opinions to it out to social media. The new MVP trophy is the Michael Jordan Award. Defensive Player of the Year, Hakeem Olajuwon. Rookie of the Year, the Wilt Trophy. Sixth Man of the Year has been renamed John Havlicek Trophy, obviously. Most Improved Player is George Mikan. I didn't fully understand that one. And the Clutch Player of the Year award is named after the great Jerry West. So there you go. 6 new names for trophies in the NBA. This is a fantasy basketball show, so we're not going to linger on that category. And we'll just sort of work our way out towards the conclusions. So again, for everybody that's listening here on the recorded side, please do follow me on Twitter at Dan Besbris. Hit me up, by the way, on YouTube or on Twitter if you guys want to get involved with us here at Sports Ethos. If you have questions, please take them to our totally free forums at sportsethos.com/community. Much love to manscaped.com, promo code ethos20. Much love to expressvpn.com/hoopball. Extra 3 months on your 1-year subscription. And thrivefantasy.com, promo code ethos to get a deposit match up to $250 on your initial offering over there. Shorter Tuesday card tonight. We'll again have our storylines for that. That'll also be on Twitter at Dan Besbris. Everything else we'll do over there, and we'll continue to try to get these live shows going whenever we possibly can. Hope you'll join us for the next one. To the recorded folks, I bid you all adieu. Have a lovely Tuesday. We will talk at you again tomorrow. To the video folks, we now peel over to the live chat, which has been mostly Hab just going at it over here. Yeah, there you go. Calm your behind down. That's right. That is the story, man. If you play full season fantasy, you gotta be calm. Can you imagine if you unloaded Kawhi Leonard? I'm trying to remember who the player was that I saw on the list, and I was like, what? I think someone may have said Dylan Brooks. No, that can't be right. Or like Monte Morris or something like that. Who the hell was it? What player was it? Harrison Barnes? I don't remember. It was somebody in like the 135 range, and I was like, no, do not. And after one good ball game for Kawhi, everybody's like, oh, he's back now. It's kind of funny, actually, that, and I was going to talk about this on the show, and then I forgot to. Let me text the nanny back real quick. This live show, man, you guys are in it now. Literally up until like 3 days ago, people were asking what they could get for Kawhi. And then as of this morning, it's what do I have to give up to get Kawhi? Y'all are predictable, man. Fade the general public. Fargo guy. This is Lee, by the way. Lee's one of our DFS experts. Y'all got to find him. Lee from Fargo on Twitter. I think I got that right. You're welcome, my dude. Which teams to target this week with games played in low-playing game days? On the low end of my, which been bring back-to-back days this week. Oh, boy. I looked this all up yesterday, and then it was one of those things where, like, my brain finished doing it, and then I forgot what I had figured out. I know the Celtics started the week with a back-to-back, so that was kind of nice. My teams are not super overloaded this week, which is weird. I think we might finally be getting a week where the schedule balances out a tiny bit. Wednesday is 10. Friday is 10. There aren't those 12 and 13 gamers, so you might not need quite as much day jockeying this week. You got 5 tonight, and then you actually have 4 games on Thursday instead of 2. And you'll see that it'll actually level off a little bit more as football starts to come downhill, because a lot of the Thursday stuff is the NBA like not wanting to go head to head with Thursday night football and things like that. So as far as this week goes, let me pull up the streamer schedule here and see if we can just do this joint on the fly. Then I got to race off and get some lunch. It's hard to do this one as a lightning round. It's a really good question, and there's a lot that goes into it. If you're looking ahead, Dallas goes Friday, Saturday on the back-to-back. Golden State actually has 4 games the rest of this week starting today, which I kind of like, because I tend to look for streaming opportunities where you don't have to do anything for a while. And actually, if you're looking at Golden State, they have 6 games over the next 9 days, which is actually a very good long streaming spot to locate. Clippers, they go back-to-back tomorrow, Thursday, so that could be kind of interesting. The Heat also are in that same bucket. Lakers would be a team you might want to pick up on Friday, because they go Friday, Sunday, Monday, rolling into a 4-game week, which I think actually if they went Sunday through the following Wednesday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games over 10 days. No, 7 over 11 days. So that's a little bit of a longer stretch for the Lakers, but Lakers are in a rough December, by the way. Oklahoma City was a pretty good pickup yesterday because they go 4 times the first 6 days this week, as do the Blazers. Sacramento, they're back-to-back today and tomorrow. Wizards are a great team to grab on Saturday because they actually go 5 times in 7 days, starting on Saturday. Those don't happen very often. The NBA tried to avoid it as much as they could. They had to do it during COVID because you had all those games that got postponed, but you very rarely see it pop up in a regularly scheduled format. And for the Wizards, starting with their game in LA against the Clippers on Saturday of this week, great spot to pick up a guy for 7 days. So hopefully that kind of semi answers the question there. Tweeting. Okay, so there you go. Tweeting on Mac on Apple products instead of TweetDeck. That's a shame. TweetDeck is great. Claxton or Şengün? I'll go Claxton there. It's got to be Naz Reid, at least until Cat comes back, and then I don't know if Naz plays after that. So, ROS makes that question a little tougher. Next month and a half, it's Naz. After that, it's probably neither. I think MPJ gets there, and he's close now. He practiced, so he's finally getting close to a return. I forgot to put the Shams tweet back up when I was doing the award listing, didn't I? Collins, I don't know. He got off to that really good start, and then he's been tapering off. I don't think he's top 50. Yeah, I mean, so you're right, breakfast cereals, but at the same time, like, these were analysts saying to sell Kawhi for top 130. These are analysts doing this. And I want to just go and walk up and tap them on the shoulder and just be like, hey, you got to tell people to chill. Our job is to help people calm down. We don't want to rile them up. The riling up happens on its own. Good looking out, Chris. Chris is on our development team here at Sports Ethos, by the way. You guys might not know. C Manu BC on Twitter. Did I get that right? There you go. Those are the teams that go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Do I think Jonathan Isaac will be a good pickup? I don't. He's a disaster. He's practicing, and they still don't have a timetable for his return. That dude is straight up built out of feathers, sticks, and glue. Like, if you opened up his leg, you'd see 3 sticks with a bunch of feathers in the middle, and they probably wrapped some, Amazon brand Scotch tape around it. Can't trust it. Nembhard, Fultz, Warren, or Murphy? Who would you ride with rest of season? So rest of season's a tough question, meet the Arteros. First of all, everybody, a reminder, please do subscribe to the YouTube page, because the more of you that are in here doing this lightning round stuff with me, the more fun it is. Nembhard is probably your best rest of season play there. Murphy gets my second place vote because he might just win it outright. But I'm still handicapping the Pelicans as if they do get healthy at some point. And maybe that's a fatal flaw here. It's possible that the Pelicans never get fully healthy, because Ingram's been out for a long stretch, and Herb's been out for a long stretch, and Zion missed some games earlier this year, and CJ missed some games earlier this year, and Nance missed a couple of ball games. It may just be that Trey Murphy is their starting small or power forward 80% of the year, and in which case he wins this. So I would never in a million years suggest dropping Trey Murphy with the expectation the Pels get healthy. But if in this hypothetical, this reminds me of a math logic class I took in undergrad, where you have to assume something to be true to make an answer to this type of question. I'm going to assume the Pelicans get healthy at some point. I will handicap this based on them being healthy, so I put Nembhard ahead of Murphy. If they're not healthy, which we've seen so far they haven't been, I think they've been healthy for 9 days out of the first 8.5 weeks, then Murphy wins it. I'm losing confidence in Fultz being a 12-teamer, so I'll put him at the bottom, just because with Warren, you still have a little bit of that mystery box appeal. Yeah, this one's been a tough one. I keep talking about selling on Grant and Anthony Simons, and it's a little bit it's kind of dumb, short-sighted advice, because everybody's expecting you to do that right now. You probably needed to do that while they were dunking. You needed to sell on those guys when Dame was out, which is crazy, because it's the opposite of what you'd think would be happening. This is probably the time to buy, weirdly enough, on Jeremy Grant, because the guy rostering him might think he's going to fall off by 35 slots, and maybe he only falls off by 15 to 20. So that would be the way you could maybe squeeze a round of value out of it. but this is a really hard time to move him. Is Olynyk the best Kelly ever? No. Kapowski dunks all over. All right. Also fair, Beans. I'm still going Kapowski, and you guys can't convince me otherwise. Oh no. All right, it's fine. This is an educational program. Ranking these 5 players. All right, breakfast. Booker over Murray, over Bane, over Anthony Edwards, over Garland. I've got Garland at the bottom in that one. You are welcome. Thank you for listening every day. Much love. And yeah, this is why we dodged almost every Pelican. So look, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I got to sign off because it's very much lunchtime over here. At the beginning, during draft season, I said I was pretty much avoiding every Pelicans player because I thought there were just too many mouths to feed, which at sometimes is a little bit of a simplistic way to handicap a basketball team. And it's kind of similar to actually why I avoided a lot of the Atlanta Hawks, certainly like among the guards. I was not huge into DeJounte Murray. Brew talked me into him being higher, and it's a wise decision because he's been, a solid second rounder all season long. But I was very low on Trae Young, and no one was going to talk me into that. So I was like, look, this guy's going to take a step backwards. The way he gets near his ADP is durability, and he still could get there. He still could. But on the Pelican side, it was even more extreme because you already had JV and Ingram, and they added CJ McCollum late last year when guys were hurt. So we didn't even really get to see CJ when the main group was healthy. And then you had Zion back in. And then you had a Jose Alvarado who wants to be doing more. You had Trey Murphy who deserves to be doing more. And it just seemed like too much. So I dodged him. Is it possible that when you blanket something like that, you miss something? Yes, because it's too simplistic of a way. And like if you really dug down to the nubs, we probably could have been like, okay, well, like maybe the Zion path is the one that makes the most sense. As it's turning out, Larry Nance is probably going to be the biggest winner on that team coming off the bench and just supplanting Jonas Valanciunas. That wasn't even why we were down on JV. We were down on JV because of Zion mostly, but now it's been a double whammy. So Valanciunas not only fell off his top 40 valuation to back near like 75 or 80 where we thought he might go, but he's outside the top 100 because there are 2 dudes coming for his cheese right now. No, that's too high for Alvarado. He's losing playing time to Dyson Daniels, and the team isn't even healthy. Melton. I like D'Anthony. No. I'll give him 100 range after he fixes some of his percentages. Let's go Kessler here. Pretty epic block rate so far. Might as well take a big swing on it. And that means it's been an hour, guys. It's been an hour. I got to go. Thank you for all the questions. Again, to all the YouTube folks that made it this far, please like and subscribe. Let's keep growing the YouTube page for Sports Ethos. And follow me on Twitter because, I do put out a lot of stuff over there at Dan Vespris. Have a great one, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Probably back on YouTube if I can carve out the time. We'll see.